invest in daughters, sisters, and wives. They're gonna change our lives. In women, in girls. They'll make a better world. Invest in her. Invest in her. Invest in her. Invest in her. And now here's your host, Catherine Gray.
Welcome to this week's edition of Invest in Her. I'm your host, Catherine Gray, founder of She Angel Investors and co-founder of the She Angels Foundation. And as you know, we are all about funding women, and that's what my next guest is about. She is the managing director of Project W, and that consists of about 3,000 female members that are female funders, that are angel investors, that are founders of funds. Please welcome to the show, Lynn Loacker. Hi, Lynn.
Hello, Catherine. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you. And I just love what you are doing with Project W. We're going to talk all about that, how people can even become a part of that and take advantage of all the incredible things you all do, from accelerators to, pitch camps to funding. So let's talk about a little bit first about your background and how you got into helping to create this Project W in the first place. So way back, you were born in Seattle, you shared with me, but now you're coming
that way back.
Not that way back. Well, let's just say you were born in Seattle, but now you're all the way on the East Coast in New York, and I think have been there for quite a while.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you were working for, is it okay to say 42 years with a prestigious law firm. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? I know you had ended up doing mergers and acquisitions, but tell me about that company and how you all launched this Project W and why.
Well, that's a lot of questions and a fairly lengthy answer, but let me start first with my career as a lawyer. I have been practicing 42 years, although I retired from the practice at the end of last year. And now I'm focused solely on Project W. I was with several law firms. I started with a law firm here in New York. I went back to Seattle in the mid-'80s and was with a law firm there, which then ultimately took me back to New York. And I've been back here for probably 20 years. The firm I'm currently with, Davis Wright Tremaine, is based in Seattle, but has offices all over the country. And Project W, the origin story behind that really is that at the various firms I'd been with, and a partner in many of them, I served on the management committee of 3 different law firms. I was just seeing no progress with women in the law. I mean, beginning 15 years ago, law school classes were at least 50% women, but still in law firms, the partnership ranks are far below that. We actually at Davis Wright set the gold standard, but only about 30% of our partners are women. So I was just fed up with the glacial speed at which women were progressing in the law. And I also started thinking about where women can make the most impact. And, unless you're a Ruth Bader Ginsburg or a Gloria Allred, law is not the easiest place to really have a broad impact. You can help your clients, but women in politics and women in companies. And I support a lot of women candidates, but I sort of decided that I could solve a couple problems by helping women build successful businesses. Women at the top in businesses really are change agents, and we can talk more about that. But I also had this thesis that if there were more women running companies, they'd hire more women lawyers. And so I started Project W really as a side gig. It was a passion project. After talking about it for 2 years, we held our first boot camp in 2016 for 20 founders. They all showed up on time. We're there all day.
And I love the idea of a pitch boot camp, because so many women are told, oh, go pitch, but they don't even know where to begin to create their deck or to even put their pitch together, or what are investors looking for. This is not their wheelhouse. That's why I love these things that you're doing, the boot camp, the accelerator program, very exciting that you're offering those types of things.
Well, and it's a lot more than just the pitch. I mean, the pitch may be the culmination, but it's really depending on which. We have programs for founders at very different stages in their companies, but depending on where they are, I mean, it could be as rudimentary as, do you have product market fit? How do you get your product launched? Does your technology do what it's supposed to do? How do you build a team and manage a team that's high performing? All those building blocks, which are really key to building a successful business.
I think so many people try to go it on their own. I was just seeing a promo from this group I belong to called the BRA Network, which stands for Business Relationships Alliances. And they were saying, solopreneur is not something you want to be. And so I agree with that statement that, it takes a village, and women need to seek out entities like Project W to take advantage of surrounding themselves with a village of mentors and resources and information, as well as funding. So, this is why what you're doing is so important. And anyone can join Project W, right? If they're a female founder or a funder or a fund manager.
Well, certainly in our network, our community, we welcome everyone. Our programs, and we do some larger events, but we've really decided is we can have the most impact when we do smaller accelerator programs where we have a group of women, a cohort, who are all about at the same stage in their company's development, and who are often in a similar type of business. I mean, most of our accelerators are industry agnostic, but they tend to be tech or tech enabled. We ran last year an accelerator for female-founded packaged food brands. Really interesting, all the different alternative protein products out there, and a lot of women are involved in developing those. And there we brought in experts from everything from food safety to labeling to co-packing and distribution.
I love that you did that niche, because so many funds and so many accelerators are just so focused on just tech. And yet there's so many women out there creating amazing food products and beverage products. I just talked to one yesterday I had on my show. Maybe Betsy Four at Tiny Organics, which is all about, organic food for babies and kids.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just raised $20 million. But it is tough in that particular sector when everybody's throwing money at tech and, STEM and stuff. But, it's great that you focused in on that. I think there's a lack of resources and opportunities for people in that space. So that's great that you did that.
Yeah, the issues for a CPG company, the issues are very different in terms of how you scale your company. I mean, you need to get product on shelves. Do you do it through Amazon? Do you do it, through your own website? And so marketing is a big challenge. Distribution is a big challenge. And actually, Tiny Organics, I believe, is a client of our firm, and there were at least one or two folks from the company that did workshops for us at that accelerator.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Mhm.
Yeah. Nice cross-pollination. I know
Yeah,
she
yeah,
is one of those women who is super successful and then really gives back to help other women, which is very cool.
yeah.
So you also shared with me that you are doing a woman of color cohort.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just by way of a little background, we were finding in our programming that when we were seeing companies that had actually raised some money, some pre-seed or seed, and we're starting to get traction, there were very few Black women and Latinas. And we knew that it wasn't because of a scarcity of high potential Black women and Latina founders. We had done in June of 2020, right after George Floyd's murder, we reached out to our network and we ended up pairing over 120 Black founders with mentors. And so we knew there was a huge universe of high potential founders, but we weren't seeing them. So we launched last summer the Tech Equity Hub, which was for pre-seed stage Black and Latinx founders. We had wonderful partners, US Bank, Microsoft's venture fund, M12, RGA, Stripe, and it was our most ambitious program. 12 weeks, at least 2 workshops a week. We had a cohort of 10 women who were just amazing. Really interesting stories, all of them. And one of them, the program was last summer, and just a month or so ago, one of them raised a $1.3 million round. She's Latina, only the third Latina to raise over $1 million.
Third Latina woman.
Yeah, third.
Yeah.
So, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. And you guys helped with that. That is so cool. Alicia Castillo Holly is the one that introduced us. And she
Right.
said, you got to talk to Lynn Loacker. She is such a trailblazer in this space of helping to empower women. And so I just love this program that you're heading up and that you really started at that firm so many years ago, really way before a lot of other people were even thinking about this. So bravo.
Thank you.
And it seems like with the things you're telling me that it's always evolving and changing. Like you were telling me, even, coming up 2023, your focus is on food and beverage, which like I said, is kind of out of the box because a lot of people aren't putting a focus on that, like they are on tech and so forth. So, I think that's great. And it sounds like you team up with a lot of corporate sponsors for your programs.
Well, we're very fortunate because we don't need sponsorship in terms of financial capital, but we get human capital and social capital.
Which are just as important, right?
Absolutely, sometimes more important at an early stage. So Davis Wright Tremaine has been funding all our programs. We, of course, tap into the talent at the law firm, but we've been very fortunate to get a number of companies involved. And then we have just an amazing group of both women and men, business executives, investors who give their time. In fact, we're doing our 8th Women Entrepreneurs Bootcamp. We're back in person. It's a day-long program, May 2nd in New York. And we've got someone who's from Insight Ventures, which is a large venture fund, doing a workshop on developing, a high-performing team. We've got a man who is the head of all regional sales for SAP, here in the Northeast, doing a workshop on sales. So, we rely on the immense generosity of our community to give of their time and expertise to support the founders in our network. It really, I've started saying, I think it takes more than a village. It really takes an ecosystem.
Right. That's a good way of putting it. You're absolutely right. I also want to talk about that you are an angel investor.
Mhm.
And, we always talk about we need more women to be angel investors. I see you also get behind women founded funds. So you had mentioned to me Bell Capital, Backstage Capital, True Wealth Ventures,
Right.
all started by women. Tell me a little bit about that, what you invest in and some of the success stories and why you invest in what you do.
Well, I'm still waiting for the big exit, but I started investing, I suppose, later than some people. I've really been actively investing in women in, I would say, the past 10 years. And it's interesting because I started primarily because I thought that was a way of supporting women. I've always given to nonprofits, but this is such an interesting conundrum. I think a lot of women have no hesitation writing a fairly big check to a nonprofit, but when it comes to writing a check to make an equity investment in a fund or a company, there's a hesitation, and you actually get more bang for your buck out of an equity investment. So,
and it's just as helpful. That's the whole thing.
Right.
Anytime you're getting behind a woman who's creating something that's going to impact the planet in a positive way, it's okay if you make money and help a woman and help the planet. It's
That's
okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're right. You mentioned the three funds. The Backstage Capital was one of the early investments I made. Arlen Hamilton, who's sort of become an icon and it really was a pioneer in terms of, first of all, she'd never raised a fund before, and she raised a fund and was focused on investing in really underrepresented founders, so BIPOC founders. And as I started investing more, I've made some direct investments, and then I've made investments through platforms like Plum Alley and the Unreasonable Group, where they bring forward opportunities and then they put together special purpose vehicles. So if you put your money together with other investors, then the check is even larger. And as I've been doing more investing, it's interesting that for the most part, I've discovered I have two primary areas of interest: healthcare, particularly women's health, and sustainability and preserving the planet. It was just, I hadn't really realized until I started looking at my portfolio that there were those themes underlying it. And every now and then there's an outlier. I invested, I guess it was 2 years ago, in First Women's Bank in Chicago. It's not a venture investment. That's like, it is as old-fashioned as you can get, but First Women's Bank was founded by women, including the former head of the Small Business Administration. And their focus is to bank women and make loans to women-owned companies. And so that's sort of what I'm having great fun doing it. I've met some amazing people, and I know that many of those investments are going to be successful.
That's very exciting. And it is an exciting world that we're trying to expose to people. Like you said, you started investing later in life. A lot of women, over 40 or over 50 can start investing as angels. Yeah. And many of them have that capability. But like you said, they'll think nothing of getting behind a nonprofit. But it's just as important to get behind a for-profit and can be very lucrative too. So it serves a lot of purposes. Very exciting world to immerse yourself in, right? The
Right.
movers, shakers, the innovations. It's very exciting.
If I can make one, I'm actually not an LP, but one in this fund or fund of funds, but Portfolio. Are you familiar with Portfolio? They're
Yes,
started by
I'm
Trish
talking to
Costello.
Lorraine soon over there.
Lorraine, yeah.
Yes.
But Portfolio is such a brilliant way of democratizing venture investment, because you still have to be an accredited investor. So have a certain annual income and a certain net worth. But the portfolio has a number of different funds along different industry sectors. And the minimum buy-in as an LP is $10,000. So if you make that investment, you can also, you end up diversifying your investment, because each fund invests in 6 to 8 companies. And
right.
I
Then
think
some people might not know what LP is. So we'll just say that's called limited partner,
right.
Angel investor in a venture capital fund. Typically, these funds will have up to a $250,000 minimum. So that's why Lynn is bringing up that $10,000 minimum is a great way for you to dip your toe in and get familiar with becoming a limited partner in a venture fund.
Yeah, it's and it also, I mean, the challenge of getting started as an angel investor is you do need to diversify, because not every company is going to make it. And if you have a portfolio of a number of companies, you're hedging your bets, and some number of them are going to be successful.
Right. And, I've heard stories of, sometimes, a fund will have 20 or 25 and get one unicorn. But I do know we have a film coming up we're making about a female founded fund. Their first 3 investments were all unicorns.
That's
so they
amazing.
all ended up being billion-dollar companies. So women are really good at this, and it's good to invest in these women founded funds. They're really successful. And one thing you said is, about Arlen being an exception to starting your own fund, not knowing anything about funding. And I will say, as I'm following this in this film series, looking at women that are starting funds, I would say the majority of them have never started a fund. They're just smart, brilliant women who know what they're doing and know a lot about investing. But it is incredible, the stories of how women are starting their own funds. And it's so important for us to accelerate the funding. They are one of the answers. The other answer is that we need more women investing in those funds. And that's what we try to talk about every week.
Well, it's, and just to clarify, Arlen got really smart really fast in terms of learning how to invest, but she had never raised a fund.
She went from homeless to multi-million-dollar fund. It was a crazy, wonderful story.
But, in addition to women investing in women fund managers, which I've done and I think is really important, the key to getting more money down to underrepresented founders is more institutional investment in women fund managers. And you just mentioned how many women are starting their own funds. Well, the problem they have is they're so-called emerging managers, and pension funds and endowments, insurance companies. There are a whole lot of reasons, but they generally don't invest in emerging managers. And it's so hard to raise the first fund. And if there were more institutional money coming in, women would raise their funds faster, they'd raise bigger funds, and that would mean more money flowing into female founded companies.
Right. And so we hope that there's some heads of corporations and foundations and family funds listening to this podcast and taking note of how they could really help accelerate that funding. Thank you so much for sharing your personal story and also telling us all about Project W, how it started, how people can be a part of it, and all the great things that you're doing. So I hope people will check that out. Where can they find you all, Lynn, on social media?
Well, I'm a LinkedIn, Lynn Loacker, Loacker, or you can find us Project W, www.dwt.com/Project W. And I think if you just plug in Project W, you'll probably find us.
Yes. And do you guys have Facebook or Instagram?
We have Instagram, Project W. Project W is on LinkedIn. We have an amazing team, and our social media director, who's a guy, Josh Gardner, he gets Project W better than anyone. So he does all our posts, and he's wonderful. So I'm sure if you're on LinkedIn and put in Project W, you'll see some of Josh's work.
Fantastic. Well, I hope people will seek out those wonderful resources. Of course, everyone can follow me, Catherine Gray, at Invest in Her on Instagram, or any of the social media. You can find She Angel Investors and visit our website. Lynn, thank you so much for being a fantastic guest. Everybody, make it a great week. Remember to invest in another woman this week. Take care.
Thanks, Catherine.
And remember to check out the Wealthy Women Summit, put on by our podcast sponsor, the Bra Network. Here's a message from their founder, Carrie Murray.
I know we've all been to hundreds of conferences. Just hearing the word conference, and you can picture the lanyard and the name tag and the taste of cold coffee. You wrap up, you post on Instagram, maybe you get a swag bag. You leave thinking, well, now that I'm empowered, what's next? How does this help my growth, both personally and professionally? Well, it's time to change things up. It's time to shake things out. Prosperity plus abundance. Flourish plus consciousness. That is the Wealthy Women Summit, set for August 25th and 26th in the beautiful Long Beach Harbor. Right next to the Queen Mary, docked is the Sir Winston yacht, because nothing says a conference about wealth than a conference that takes place on a yacht. We are going to have panels and speakers and workshops on all the different decks. Everything to help you cultivate a life that is more than just wealth, meaning the money you have in the bank, but wealth in mind and body, wealth in leadership and growth, wealth in health, wealth in life. We want to provide you with a full experience of living a wealthy lifestyle. Now, I want you to head over to the wewosummit.com website. It's WeWo, WEWO, summit.com, and use promo code INVEST to get 15% off your ticket to this very unique experience. See you this summer.
Remember, if you're looking to launch a business or grow your business, check out our e-course, 6 Ways to Fund Your Business, available at sheangelinvestors.com.
Our theme music was created and produced